ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Culture to Christ podcast. We are your hosts, Alex and Aaron. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you're just tuning in, please subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. It helps us reach more people. If you do like this video, like it and leave a comment on what you think. Also, check us out on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. We're going to do a Q&A episode, so put your questions on the Apple Podcast form. And also leave us 5 stars. I see some 2.5 stars and 3 stars. You know, we need to bump that a little higher. Aaron, what's going on, dude?
I think we foreshadowed what was happening last episode, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow is stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks.
We're in the midst of it right now. This, it's, you called it, you thought of it. I'm not surprised. We're not surprised. Numbers go up. The fear goes up. Testing's going up. And I'm just grateful that the Halton region is open so I can play hockey on Mondays,
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was not going to lie. Like, it was going to, because I was getting back to my routine, getting the energy flowing again, feeling better, right? Yeah, COVID was good. I got to reset and reflect on things, but when you get
it's
going,
go time,
it's go time.
Sometimes you just have to say, it's go time.
Yeah.
And it's bullshit for all the, those restaurants and places that now have to
take
go
another
back.
blow.
Yeah,
take another hit.
What's 28 days going to do?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be, like you even said, you think numbers are going to go up in the 28 days because they want to say, see, we were right. This is important. Imagine if we didn't do 28 days.
It's all about public perception.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even backed by facts anymore or by, concrete data. It's all like public perception, and a lot of the politicians who are making and enforcing the rules, it makes you think where their actual not where their head's at, but what do they really care about? Like, what's the purpose behind all of this? We don't really see like the end goal here.
No, we know it's
because look,
away.
let's say the numbers go back down again in 28 days, okay?
Yeah.
What, you're gonna reopen everything and the numbers go back up again? We should do another shutdown. It's like at some point you just have to let people live their lives. If you are scared to go out, stay home.
Yep.
That's what it's come down to. Give people that freedom of choice. Give business owners that freedom of if we're doing everything you guys are telling us to by enforcing masks, contact tracing, all of that. And now, let's say your restaurant had 0 cases. Why are you being forced to shut down now when you just did your job for the last month or 2 months? It doesn't make sense.
You're absolutely right. I think even we were 6 months shut down. We did the whole shutdown for 6 months, right? And yes, testing has gone up through the roof, but people were living their lives with COVID, doing things. Like, we're not going to, all of a sudden the virus is going to be like, wow, they shut things down. We're not going to go to certain areas, right? We're not going to, at nighttime, we come out more, stay in, close down at nighttime. There's no more free thinking. You can't think for yourself anymore. People are becoming sheeps. They don't want to think. They just, whatever the government says.
And they also keep saying that, if we keep prolonging it, then we can get the vaccine. But what about for the majority of people like us who aren't even going to take the vaccine?
I'm not taking no vaccine.
So what's the difference for us of, and then a lot of people feel that way as well, that, they're not taking the vaccine. So if that's the whole intention of, extending lockdowns so we can get closer to a vaccine, first of all, you don't even know how many people are going to be taking it unless you enforce it in people's workplaces and travel and all that. And that's a whole nother discussion. And I don't want to even get into that.
We might get into it eventually down the road, right?
Yeah.
But if you watch that movie V for Vendetta, it's a movie made in 2005.
I watched it. If
you guys watch that movie, you'll find a lot of similarities in that movie and where we are right now. There's a script being played, right? There's a script being played. It's, virus here, create fear, create panic, talk about all the deaths, talk about, how
mass hysteria,
how scary this is. It's not even killing many people, and the ones that are dying, unfortunately, had pre-existing conditions, and we're ruining other people's lives, businesses, their mental health, things people built on their whole lives, like even their parents' businesses, their grandparents' businesses. They
it's not even just business. It's also livelihoods too. Like,
it's livelihoods. It's like not just business based on I got to make money, but it's like I got to feed my family, or I have to feed maybe family that's in another country, like there's so many different circumstances. And, we're trying to be more free thinking. Like there is a fight where people don't want to freely critically think and be your own judge of what's really going on. When I talk to people, they just regurgitate information they hear on the news. Like they don't actually tell me what they think or what they believe or what's their actual opinion. They just regurgitate, the government.
So it's not also some people too, they might be so sick of talking about it. Like I am too to certain people where it's like, yeah, they know my opinion towards it. Or you just don't even want to like repeat the same thing that you've been saying like 5 months ago. Because like both of us, like our opinions towards COVID hasn't changed. So it's like, there's only so many times you can have that same talk where you're tired of it. And you're just like, it is what it is.
And we're not saying the virus is not real. The virus is real.
Of course, the virus is real.
The propaganda is not.
And the numbers are, that's another story. Like we know that the numbers are inflated. Like we have friends who, work in the hospitals and who are nurses, and they know that the testing is not as accurate as we think. And, to shut down basically large cities and countries for over 1% of the population, and it's like it just doesn't make sense.
I always say this: if we're going to look at COVID, and I understand the beginning because it was new, didn't understand it, didn't know treatments, hospitals were overwhelmed, doctors and nurses were overworked. We had to shut down to understand and manufacture a proper system for the hospitals. So, okay, logistically, okay, you know what? You have to do the lockdown. But you had 6 months to get shit together, 6 months to figure out the proper logistics.
And it's no different
now. We
now.
don't need another lockdown.
Yeah, nothing's going to change now compared to, 6 months ago. Yes, like because you're shutting things down, but you're increasing testing. So who knows if the numbers are going to stay the same or go down. And whether they go up or down, the virus is still going to be here. So what's the point of, going for a shutdown and then reopening and then shutting down again? It's pointless. Yeah. But anyways, let's move on.
We're going to go into today's topic, guys, about priorities. And it does relate to the current, stage of the world and what you prioritize in your life, how you organize your life, how you think about your life. We need to be more free thinking, more critically thinking. And we're going to get into focus. Aaron and I are both really focused. We're intentional on what we want to do, and we want to be challenging. We want to challenge each other and challenge you listeners. And even before we go into the topics for today, as this is a conversation, we want to be, always people that are reaching out to us. I want to know that I'm listening to you guys, right? And the topic we talk about swearing. A lot of different Christians are reaching out to me on my DMs, and they're appalled about my swearing. And I always come from a place where I listen and I seek, you know what? You're not saying false things, right? Speaking ill of the tongue and not watching my mouth and is something I'm going to work on. But we need to know in life that me and my Christian faith in being perfect and us being perfect, I don't want to be perfect. The point of our podcast, Culture to Christ, is Aaron and I know the people we're trying to reach who are like us, who didn't, were so involved in culture and speaking a certain way. And it brought me to thinking about, in today's time, even Christians, people that, Christians can be the most judgmental, religious, just hatred, you
Hypocrites.
sinned. Yeah, they like to point the fingers about your sin. The only being we need, God is our master. He through the Holy Spirit, when he gives you the Holy Spirit, lets me know, hey, you're swearing too much there. You're off track there. You were not focusing on, righteousness.
But we admitted last podcast.
Exactly.
We talked about it. That's something we want to work on.
That's why it's so appalling to me. People reach out to me like, hey, they send me paragraphs about they just can't stand the swearing. And I want to help you guys think about in life, if what you talk about, like when you talk about someone or you want to criticize or critique them, it's better off if you focus on what they do good. Because if you talk to someone like, hey, you know what? If I focus on, hey man, I like how you do this. I like how you talk about this, or I like how you're very honest and open about this. That will help the person want to do more of that.
But
right?
all they had to do, if they listened to last episode, they would know that we talked about how we want to work on, on the swearing and the profanity, and it's something that we're aware of. So like if they're telling you that it's bothering them, they probably didn't listen to the last episode or to that part. So I would have just replied to them by saying, we actually talked about that, and we want to
The
be
funny
better.
and the funny thing is, I'm like, so we're so transparent on this podcast. I was transparent about I'm not perfect, and the point of the podcast is to be very bare, vulnerable in the wilderness, so people can then like, you know what, these guys have issues. These guys swear, and I'm working on my swearing, but these guys are talking about Jesus. Maybe I can get there. I think what came to my head is we want to be Jesus, right? Like Jesus did this. You can't be Jesus. It's about the teachings. People want to be Jesus. Like, hey, man, got to watch your words. You can't sin anymore. It's like, no. Like, I'm not fully God, fully man. I'm not Jesus. I worship Jesus.
Yeah, that's
but I'm
annoying.
never going to be him, right? And I know that I'm trying to help people that never grew up in a church, never grew up with certain disciplines. I didn't have swearing for me I didn't really get scolded, and I think a lot of people, when they watch certain things or they watch people go into the wilderness, when I say wilderness, I mean put themselves out there like you and I are doing. They focus on when they're going to mess up. They're like waiting to find something that's wrong with them. And if you are a Christian and you think like that, you're not Christian. And I know that sounds direct, but it's true, because you're constantly looking at where is your fault, not let me see where the good is. And if I'm going to reach out to somebody, focus on first, hey, man, I like how you do this. And if you do not like something, ask a question about it. Like, hey, how do you feel like about the swearing? Like, do you struggle with it? Let me know, because that leads to more of a conversation.
There's a great quote that goes, "Don't judge me because my sins look different than yours." That's a real thing, because you can't be pointing the finger or trying to tell another person how to live their life without looking at your life first. So yeah, like those DMs that you're getting about the swearing, it's something like.
But I'm always gonna be bare, because I want people to.
No, it's
like,
good. It's good that you brought it up, but like it's something that we talked about first. So, and that's something that we want to work on.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you and I met, we were open about things, our sins. We never judged one another.
No. It's not my not my purpose to judge you. It's not your purpose to judge me. Like you help each other, and you work on things that that are giving you a tough time, and you just go from there. It's not about pointing blame or trying to one up each other.
Mm-hmm. So going in now, we're going to talk about focus, and what do you focus on in your life? How do you prioritize your life from when you wake up, when you start your day? And we're going to get into a bit of the spirits that we also carry in our lives. We can see now it's more aware. It's more obvious now when you see people, because I think in the lockdown and seeing people after lockdown, you got to really see themselves bare, like how they really function, because now all the smoke screens are gone. Like businesses shut down, things stop going, everyone loses the routine. And you almost like, once the mask's removed, you get to see where they're functioning from. So we're going to talk about focus, we're going to talk about function, and also your routine building. So about focus, a lot of people carry spirits in this world. They function from fear, anxiety, worry, anger, greed. And I think the first one is important to talk about is fear. And we want to instill a increase in faith in the things that are not seen, not easy to perceive. And once, a lot of times when things hit the fan, there's struggles, people are losing their jobs, we tend to go to fear, worry, anxiety. So when you've learned, Aaron, say if you were in the culture currently and you didn't have the coming of Christ, how do you see yourself in right now? If you had your business going, how would you be responding?
I would think I would use this opportunity as a time to go as hard as possible, because now, because like we know that a lot of people's daily routines have changed, and just like, so for my business, it was clothing, right? And that since a lot of stores are closed, everything's moved to online. So now everyone's on their phones way more than usual.
Mm-hmm.
So now that would be my time to grind really hard by, getting the fit pics and, posting new drops, all of that. I would just be so a lot more, focused on social media, where I'm thankful that I'm not doing that right now, because we talked about the stress that brings and the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so like the focus, I think that, whatever it is that you're focusing on, um I think that the focus should always be on the daily goal, right? I think that's what comes first. So the daily goal, because once you're focused on the daily goal, it translates to, the bigger goal of what you have. And that relates to, a lot of people's lives in different ways, because let's say you work just, you're working a part-time job, right? And if you work a part-time job that you hate, as soon as you get up in the morning, what's your focus on? Like, your focus is on, damn, like I gotta go clock in here. So your focus immediately there, until you clock out of that job, can be in a negative mind state where, you're just there killing time, just thinking like, how long am I going to be doing this? And that's when like the other emotions of anxiety, depression, those stuff can kick in. And especially if after you clock out of that job, you don't have anything you're working on. So what do you turn to, right? And like, we like to talk about a lot of different angles, because we know that the people listening the people listening to this all come from different backgrounds. We have people who, they do have their own businesses that listen. We have a lot of successful people that listen to us. We have people from all different walks of life. So we need to share the perspective from as many different people as possible,
Mm-hmm.
from the lowest to the highest, right? Because yes, there are people that are listening to this that they don't feel any of the things we talk about, because they're doing what they love to do. And and whether God blessed them with a vision or with a business that they wake up feeling proud and motivated to thrive in, right? Every circumstance needs to be discussed, and like the emotions we're talking about, focus, can translate to every walk of life. So to go back to your question about me, how I would have used this time in my focus, I would have been more as like very dialed in to grow the business. Like, because I'm a self-motivated person myself, where I don't need to, I don't need other people to tell me what to do. Like, I know where I want my business to go and how I'm going to do it, and that's something that God blessed me with. But until I actually allowed Him to work through me by giving Him control, you really you don't know how much you can do yourself.
And I think you taught me that as in our relationship. You taught me to be a bit more selfish in your life, like to a point where you need to be focusing on you as a priority first. Like, you have to really isolate yourself and really, really be selfish in terms of what you're trying to achieve and why, and that it's okay to do that.
You know why? So, and I used to struggle with this too, but it depends on what you're doing, because if you're a self-made entrepreneur, like, so when I was talking to you about my business, because it was only me running it, that's why I could give you that advice of, like, your business, and you, because you're putting the time in, that's why you have to, block out all the noise from other people and just focus. And when you and I met, because you told me that you had your own business, and you were growing the clothing, you have your own fitness, your own fitness business as well. So I knew that I could help you, because I saw myself in you. Because I never had anyone really show me the ropes of how to run a business properly, especially like in the hockey, coming from the hockey background. So that's why when I told you about like the things that I learned of like self-discipline, of like being your own boss, all these things, where it's like, it's real advice because I knew how to do it. So in terms of like focus, if you're a self-made entrepreneur, your discipline and focus needs to be on you first, as selfish as that sounds.
No,
Because
I saw it. Like, I was like, holy shit. Like, I was focused, but I still let other areas, I still gave my time and energy to other areas. Like, I meandered in things. I was like, this is not bringing any return. This is not taking me to somewhere I want to go. Like, I was very grateful meeting you, because I was like, okay, you know what? I get to hear the experiences of, like, definitely don't do this. Focus on this. This is what you're going to, the kind of roadblocks you're going to get. Nah, don't spend money there. Don't do this, right? Like it's very, you can't go take a course on that. You can't go on YouTube and listen to it. Like they won't tell you the real shit.
Until you experience it yourself, there's no self-help guidelines. There's nothing that you can do besides, learning and growing through failures, through success, like you can by doing it yourself. Nobody can hold your hand or try to tell you what to do. You have to experience those L's and W's yourself, right? But you see, that comes at a price, because having that mentality of putting yourself first and your business first, it causes to lose friendships. It causes you to miss out on things that other people kind of look at you like, what, like, oh, you can't come to my birthday, you're gonna miss this because you're so focused on your own thing. Like I've experienced all of that. Where
now, if you could choose though, if you had to weigh the both, go back, would you still then focus on yourself though? Because you said you lost friendships, you lost birthday parties, but was it worth it to spend the time with yourself to get to really know yourself and know your potential?
So me personally, the reason why I say yes, it is worth it, is because if I never did that, I wouldn't know what I'm capable of doing myself. And that's a big thing where you need to experience that, and not everyone gets a chance to experience that. A lot of people, they don't have it in them, and they don't have the resources to, and I say resources because people's situations are different. I know so many talented people and people who are driven just like me, but because they have kids, or because their focus now is on a family, where they don't have the free time like I do, like you do. So that's why I try to be as open-ended and as honest with other people's situations, because I know we all have our own shit to deal with, right? And the trade-off, why I say yes, it was worth it for me, was because I still have the freedom that I worked for in the past, that's still allowing me to do this podcast, allowing me to do the things that I love to do. And if I didn't go through that, and if I didn't work for that time period of grinding and building my own business, I don't know what I'd be doing today, right? Like I said, maybe I'd still be gambling. But with that said, all of that would not be possible if I didn't reach out to God. I would have no vision, I would have no business if I didn't ask God to come in my life and give me something where I could put my attention to.
And you began with faith. That's when I'm hearing this. You began with faith. You were working so hard because you first started with faith. Faith focuses you, and when people from the outside, like you said, friends, they're wondering why you're not going to parties, you're not showing up to this, you're always changing. It's easy to look at somebody, but no one's ever going to know your personal relationship with God, right?
Unless you share it like this.
Unless you share it, and for me, when I see how hard you work, faith without works is dead. You need to have faith first, because when you have a relationship with God, you have faith, you have a stronger, clearer path, and you're focused, and when we talked about when God's speaking to you, it's obvious. When God blesses you with something, it's obvious when you're in relationship with Him. And I saw you even with other people, guys we played hockey with, different people ask you, you're always very selfless to help them, show them. And even with myself, you always want to show, you know what, I knew what it was like. You said you knew what it was like not to know something until you did it. So I can tell, you know what, you're willing to give a helping hand, right? You're not nah, man, I'm keeping this to myself. Or you're no, you know what, God blessed me, let me help bless others as well.
And that's a privilege. So me being able to do that, it's a blessing, because if I didn't create the spiritual, emotional, financial freedom that I did for myself, I wouldn't be in a place where I could pass it on to others. And that's something that not everyone gets to do. So I tell people that if you, because a lot of people they reach out to me asking me how can I start this, or what's my advice towards this, and some people I have to tell them are you ready to make a change in your life? And I'm talking about friends. I'm talking about what you have going on in your spare time, money you're going to have to put into it. These are all things that, it comes with everything. Life comes at a price. That's what we said in episode 1. So until you're ready to, actually go through the depths and the struggles of what it takes to be, self-made, You have to ask yourself that, because you're going to piss a lot of people off. I'll tell you that. You're going to lose friends. People are going to look at you the wrong way. They're going to create
call you
narratives.
crazy. They're going to call you
Yeah.
crazy.
You're going to hear everything in the world about yourself once you become successful. And like, you got to have really tough skin. And if I didn't have that relationship with God, I don't know how long I would be able to handle it for.
Mm-hmm. And you had the most important relationship.
Exactly.
Because once you're riding with God, here come the attacks. Because everything you do is at a different, like the world is going this way, like you're going this way, and people are like, this doesn't make sense. Like like the way he functions, things he does, like he's not operating in the same conversations, the same way of communicating. And I've talked to many guys who are struggling, in a worse spot, and I have told them straight up, you don't change your friends, your life won't change. You don't if your current life, your current circumstances, where you're focusing your time in the relationships you have with people, if you don't like it, you have to get rid of those friends. And not being disrespectful, being rude. You can say, hey guys, I want to change my life. I want to improve on myself, and this is not a place for me to do it anymore. I have respect. I love you guys, but I'm doing this for me.
And give them a chance, though. Like, you can if you put it out there, like, I want to elevate with you guys, and like I'm talking like towards my friends and towards people that you like, your social group. If you put it out there to them that let's work on something, and you find that these guys aren't on the same wavelength as you, or they're not putting in the same type of effort, then that's when you have to make the change. And then, like, for my personal situation, where I had friends who were very successful, but I just knew that the vision that God blessed me with was for me to carry out. I couldn't have done that with other people, because we know sometimes when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, the meal never gets prepared, right? We know that. And sometimes you have to look like the bad guy for, your dreams to come.
Who's the hell's kitchen
true.
guy? Is that you?
Gordon Ramsay.
Is that you? Are you Gordon Ramsay? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, like some people, like, they know, me and you can relate to that, where even in hockey, they look at us like we're psycho because we're so intense. And, like, come on, like, just the drama alone from our own men's league teams is crazy. Like, we run it like it's the professional team.
I know.
But that's just like, it's like our personality, and
it's our mindset.
You can't change that for others. Like, I would never want to change who I am to please other people who, at the end of the day, they're pursuing their own self-interest as well. That's what the world is. Yes, I can still come from a godly place, and I can still be a Christian and want to, help other people. But there's a fine line between, people's ego stepping in the way of their own decisions and my own decisions. And it also can affect, the in a team perspective, the rest of the group. And you know about that personally, so it's like it's hard finding that balance. I'd be lying if I said like I have it all figured out, but you pray, you live, and you learn, and you keep it moving, right?
Yeah, it's not black and white. You can never find it, oh, now I have it down. God is constantly working on you. Like, you'll think you'll know how to communicate in a team, in a business, but you have to constantly balance that. Balance, how far should I push somebody? How far should I go? You're constantly trying to balance it. And I don't want to get negative here, but I know that, Aaron said you can talk to your friends. You said you can talk to your friends, say, let's try to elevate together. But if your friends live a certain lifestyle, and then you say you're trying to get healthier, and they judge you for it, they chip you for it, they're not nice. They're not kind people.
And you'll know when it's time to to move on. You'll know.
When you speak in truth and you say, you know what, I got issues, guys. I'm struggling. I don't like that I'm an alcoholic, or I'm doing drugs every weekend, or I'm going to strip clubs, or I'm sleeping with a lot of women. Like, and then they make fun of you for trying to be better. There's your answer right there. Like, you're first of all being open and transparent, and you're saying you want to get better, and they make fun of you for it, or they bring up your things you've done wrong. Who do you think you are trying to be better? And I want you guys to know, if you're maybe listening, you might be in that place where you're doing that to somebody. You need to change. That's just it's a place where even for myself, I know what it's like. What it's like to be. We're different. We're unique people. We don't like to change. We like to. We don't want to drink alcohol. We don't want to do drugs. And in today's time, that's the normal conversation, normal thing. And if you're with friends that everyone does that, and you say you want to change, you're going to trigger them. They're going to feel insecure, and you need to get away from that immediately. Like, honestly, I always say too, like, it's like if you're trying to convince people who don't want to be changed, they don't want to get better. You're talking to a wall will be more beneficial. You're not going to go anywhere. You're wasting too much energy. And like Aaron talks about how he had to really, stay in your lane, and you had to upset people. Like God made everyone. I always think like God made people very individual, very specific, very. This is your gift, yeah, and this is what I want you to do. Like God gives you a plan, gives you a vision. I want you to do this. Now He knows. He also then equips you with the Bible because He knows this is going to happen now. Because now you're choosing me. You're not choosing the world, choosing your friend group, choosing your job, choosing your hockey team, choosing other people for validation. You're choosing me. These are the attacks that are going to come. But I'm going to equip you so you don't become the victim. You don't complain about it. You almost it's like it's a very humbling experience. It's like God shows you the way. He tells you the attacks, and then they come, and then you smile. It's almost like a verified check that I'm finally listening. Right? When you start to realize you are a free thinking being, you have so many different things you want to accomplish. It's okay that nobody should be the same. We should be okay to disagree.
And
right?
sometimes you have to see what you're capable of doing yourself, right? Like you don't know until you actually try. A lot of times I know people who, they have all the tools to do to pursue what they want to pursue. And I know that they would be successful too, but they just don't have the courage to take the first step, right? Of, like seeing what they can do by themselves. And that's something that comes from within, and that comes, like, for me, it came with God, but you don't know until you actually do it. And you don't know how long your time is going to be here. So, it's one of those things where you got to weigh it out and see what am I losing from trying. Because people are scared. They're scared to fail. Be not like what we talked about, not because of their own self-critique or self-criticism, but from the comments of other people.
Mm-hmm. And there are hard times, man. Doing on your own and realizing that I have to work on yourself. When you start building your own business and having to check on yourself, you realize, man, I got a lot of things I got to work on. My sleep. I need to work on my sleep. I need to work on how much time I spend watching TV. Like, you really realize, like, in the episode when you talk about your business and how much time you had to do nothing else but your business, you had to really realize it's all on me. I have to really work on myself. Sorry, I have to work on myself. I have all these issues. Like, I'm used to working somewhere and someone telling me what to do. And I'm used to just, having the checklist of, okay, I have to accomplish this by the day and I get to go home. Where you do your own thing, you have to I have to work on myself. I have to work on insecurities. I have to work on things I'm lacking. I have to work on different areas of my intelligence. I have to research on my own. Like, no one's there to help you. In this world, there's nobody there that's going to really help you. Like, you have to realize you are on your own. Like, God made you. It's you and God.
Nobody is going to go harder for you than you will go for yourself. That's a fact. Like, yes, your family will be there to support. Well, I can't even say, I can't talk about everyone's, because everyone has different relationship with their families. But for the most part, your family will support you. But even if your family and your friends don't support you, like, you got to be able to, find that within and get going, right? Like, the world does not care about your problems.
No.
Like, we'll be the first ones to tell you. Like, no one's going to feel sorry for you. No one's going to reach out and be like, oh, come take my position in the world. Like, we know it doesn't work like that.
No.
It's
and when you find those friends that, you realize your family, not even just blood, but the certain people you have, you make sure you keep those relationships healthy and you respect them and you say, yo, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Because
don't take it for granted.
No, because we're going to get into later testimonies in our own lives, and that's real. When you realize certain things that happen, you think your life is really a certain way. When tragedy strikes, the truth will be revealed about every single kind of relationship you have. Going forward now, we're going to go into a function. So when we talked about focusing, guys, focus on you and how God wants you to work. Focus on the relationship with God. It's you and God. The world is not going to spoon feed you and take care of you. The government's not your God. And we're getting into function. This is a deeper topic. Functioning is basically the life force, the spirits you take in when you're doing something. Functioning, and what spirit are you functioning in? When we talk about how you garner your energy, Aaron talks about when you're working and you don't like your job, you're always in this bitterness, you're in resentment, you're angry at somebody who maybe told you to follow this career path. How are you functioning in your day? Because how you function and the spirit you take with you will lead to results in your later life. And when I myself didn't have a relationship with God, I functioned from a lot of bitterness, anger, resentment. I was very like, oh, I have to do this because this is what I grew up in and I'm only good at this. But I never had the spirit that God wants me to live in. When we talk about the Holy Spirit, it's basically like a sense of peace, of joy, where you can be present in what you're doing. So a question I'll ask you guys is, can you be present in the life you're currently living? So if you're waking up in the morning, are you present in the morning? When we talk about, can you pray? Can you think about your day? Does your day start in negative? Does it start in, I have to do this. Oh, I got to go do this. We want to start changing it as, I have the opportunity to do this. We have to change the way we think about things. And then you might think, like, how do I change my thoughts? How do I, where do I go to start changing my thoughts? For me, I'm a very pessimistic person naturally. I'm very negative and very like, I came from a background of hockey. You got to be better. Like, you're never good enough. I got to work out more. I got to train harder. I got to put myself to work because I'll never be good enough. I always came from a place of like, I'm shit. I keep going to the gym. I keep pushing myself. I have to do this because I'm never good enough. And doing that means that when you get to a place you can actually be proud of, you're not going to be, because you're constantly looking for the next thing. You're constantly, I got to push myself. I got to do this because I'm never good enough. So I had to work on my relationship with God, helped me to change the way I thought about the world. Right. So if
that also relates to the feeling of never getting to feel the sense of satisfaction, never being satisfied. Like culture and the world loves to tell us that you should never be satisfied, right? What you have, it's not good enough, or the level you're at, it's not good enough. You always have to be working towards more. And, like, if you're always thinking like that, with like what you said, it can take you down a dark place, because if you constantly think of yourself as not good enough, or what I have is not enough, I need more, right? That's that type of mentality. It forces you to do certain things where, like, fuck, what I have to start risking more, or do I have to start like turning to other things because I need to gain that competitive edge. Right? Whether it's sports, whether it's your life. And I personally don't, I know you can find a healthy balance in that, but it's easier said than done. Yes, you can be pushing yourself to achieve more and, to be better in whatever you're trying to do, like with your skill set. But you have to know when, like the place where you're at is good progress, right? You get what I'm trying to say about like finding that balance, because I think that, like if you don't find that balance, right, you're always going to be compromising, and or you're going to be never satisfied. And who like, that's not a good feeling.
No, we always say the hamster on the wheel. It's, you're working your fucking ass off. And see, I just swore. But you're working
Me
your
too, I swear there too.
You're working your buttocks.
Yeah.
You're working your buttocks off. Is that more inflection for you guys? You're working your buttocks off, and you don't really go anywhere. And when I say functioning too, it's a lot of us, myself, listeners, people, we function on dysfunction, where because the world is based on money and numbers and crunching numbers, we become human doings and now we're no longer human beings. So we base ourselves based on our numbers, and that causes a lot of dysfunction. I have to constantly keep proving that I deserve to be at a place with these certain people, right? With these certain, either, it's clout chasing. I'm trying to get these followers. I'm trying to hit these numbers in sales. I need to achieve these things so I can post on Instagram, all these different things where we normalize dysfunction.
So like during my period of, of always striving for more and never being satisfied, right? Until I actually built that relationship with God, where I let him like take I always tell people, like, allowing him to take the steering wheel, right, of your life. Until I actually did that, that's when I felt the relief of not always having to chase things and feeling unsatisfied. Because then I just came from the perspective of, like, look what God has blessed me with. Like, God is going to bless me with what I need, And I don't need to function from a place of, of always feeling like I'm not good enough, or always feeling like I gotta prove myself to other people. But until you find that relationship with God where you know that He's working, and what you're gonna achieve is because of Him, right? That gave my peace of mind. It gave me a peace of mind, and it just like put my life into a place where I was more not just satisfied, but I was more, I would say, contentment. There's no price on that, on being content. Culture tells you that you should never be content,
Mhm.
but we know that there is a healthy place of finding contentment.
And it's
Right?
it's a practice too.
Yeah.
It's a practice. Like, it doesn't just come overnight. It's like you have to constantly, like we said, like the spirits, thoughts are spirits. So when we know we build a relationship with God, this is how God wants us to think like. This is how God wants us to act like. If God can forgive me, heal me, guide me, He wants then, okay, I want you to live this way.
Because we like to put a number on things, like what you talked about. And if that, like people say, like, oh, if I just had $1 million, if I just had 100,000, like my life would be good. I would be set. I'd be good, right? That's my perceived level of contentment, and that's a load of shit. Because I'll tell you that there's, as soon as you hit that number, you know that, okay, I got to get to the next number, because that's not
So
good
when
enough, right?
when you were in that time,
Yeah.
where were you going? Like, where was your function and how you were living your life? Like, where did you want to go? I ask people that question a lot. Like, when they're working their ass off, I ask, where are you going? Where did you want to go when you're grinding and growing your business? You were away from God. Let's say when you were away from God, like, where were you going? Or where did you want to go? What was it that you needed to achieve to have that, you said, like, contentment, or like, oh, when I get here, then I'll be good?
I never put like an exact number on it. I just knew that I wanted to be a millionaire. Like that was something that I always wanted to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Ever since
And
you were
then,
young, like, it was like a dream of yours when you were young?
yeah, that's culture, like, and that's people that I've been around. Like I knew that that's something that I wanted for myself. And then after you achieve that, right? It's like, well, because my circumstance was so unique too, like the losing the Instagram and everything that played a part in changing my perspective and changing my relationship with God. But still, like, just me, once I achieved that, I told myself, I was like, you know, I gotta go more. Like the things that now that I used to look at in a certain way, it didn't faze me anymore. So the little things that you used to look forward to doing, now it's nothing for you, because a dinner or a trip, all of this, like, you can do it when you can afford to do anything you want, right? And once you get to that level, you're just like, okay, so this I gotta get to that next level. It's not satisfying, because there's no peace there's no God in there.
Did
right?
it hurt? Did it bother you? Were you surprised? Like,
It just led me to do, like, typical culture shit, like, like what guys do. You go to strip clubs, you party, you do the typical shit that you see in movies and all that, like, especially, like, as a single guy, you're gonna do, once you have anything, like, no one can tell me what to do. I have no boss. It's like, you're gonna
no
do what you
girlfriend,
want.
no
Yeah.
wife,
No kids. It's
nothing.
like, it's literally it's endless. And that's the thing that because especially today with advertising, commercials, all of these things that we're being bombarded with, it teaches, it's trying to tell us to never be content. You always need the next product. You always need to get to that next level of, like, whether it's cars, whether it's it could be anything. But if you can never feel content in your life, you're always going to be you're always going to be chasing and being vulnerable, compromising
your moral compass.
And it's about finding that balance, because yes, you have to be motivated, but you also have to know that about when you're taking things too far, and is you losing sleep, or if you're losing your mind over certain things. Like, no one likes to feel the anxiety and the constant stress of, like, what I told you, of always responding to DMs, or like. And that's why I ask people, like, what you want in your life. Are you ready to pay the price?
Yep.
You got to ask yourself.
Yep. And when you your story of when you have to reach certain heights and certain levels of money, you're right, and you're constantly trying to, get the validation you're looking for, get to the next stage. You have to compromise your moral compass. A lot of people who have done great things had to compromise who they want to be, who God made them to be. And I think an important thing is that when you feel anxiety, you feel worry, and you have a relationship with God, it's a great sign. It's a great signal going, I'm focusing on me too much and what my ego wants, what my pride wants. And it also tells me, okay, I'm definitely looking at too much Instagram stuff. I'm watching maybe too much political crap about whatever's going on right now. And it's a good sign that, okay, I need to go back into the Word. I wasn't praying enough. I'm going too much into the world. And when we start functioning from that spiritual place first, that you're a spirit first, you need to, if you prioritize that first, you take care of that, the foundation will be set. Because the problems that you used to think were problems are not problems. Sometimes it's manifested in your head. You create ideas, you create worry, you create fear. And I always say worrying is praying for what you don't want to happen, where God wants you to pray for things to happen that are beneficial, that you love. For me, it's even that people we don't like or we have strife with, when God says love your enemies, we need to start changing the way we focus on even how we see our enemies, how we see the culture, how we see things that we used to be like. I came from like an intense of like, I'm intense in culture, I'm intense in hockey, to then like I'm intense in God, and I would judge other people by myself. I'd be like, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And I didn't go like, man, maybe what if I just pray for those people? Like, God, I pray that
reach out and help them, like what we talked about.
If it's reasonable and like it's someone that's close to you and you care about them, for sure. But prayer is powerful. Prayer is saying, I'm like, you and I talked about it, humbling ourselves, like we're worshiping God and believing He can do things. So if, I have things that we'll go into testimonies later on in my life that people have done to certain people in my family. I pray for those people. It's easy for me to get angry. It's easy for me to hate. I'm really good at those things. I'm really good at being pessimistic, right? I'm, like you even say, really good at swearing. Like, things are just natural. I can decide to be Alex Fleshly and just do what I used to do. But when I'm in my relationship with God, we say it's hard. It's a long road. It's a process. You have to be willing to, let me focus on the good things. And
you got to be ready to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right? When you're walking that journey with God, there's so many things that, go through your mind, whether it's old habits or things that, you deal with strongholds. And it's like, it's a life of discipline. And if you actually build that relationship with Him, like I said before, it translates into success. It translates into new opportunities. It translates into building good teams around you. There's so much good that can come from, having a strong relationship with God if you allow Him to work and you stay faithful. You don't. There's a big problem today with it's called conditional obedience. So only obeying God when it's beneficial for you, or when you see like the immediate impact of a good situation. So like instant gratification. We're not willing to wait, sacrifice, and to put in time to building something and to really test God's power. See, and like let Him work through your life, because once you allow Him to do that, everything that you're meant to get in life, He will provide.
Yes.
So it's like you have to really believe that.
Pray and you will receive.
Yes, like whatever you are meant to be blessed with, once you let God work through your life, you are going to achieve that. Mm-hmm. And like I'm a firm believer in that, because Amen. I've seen it in my own life. Like if I didn't see it in my own life, then I couldn't tell people to believe that or to even consider it, because I can only speak on my own experiences.
But it goes to show practice of faith.
Yes.
Like you had to practice faith, and just because the times that it wasn't right already, okay, you're not given what you want, you have to be like, it doesn't matter how I feel. If I don't feel like I've got what I want, maybe God wants me to be in this stage.
He wants you to go through it.
He wants to see how faithful are you. Like you want it all, that's like you said, conditional when it meets you. We want God to work for us, right? I know a lot of Christians do that. They want God to meet their standards, to meet their reality, to fit their lifestyle, to then justify their actions, right? Where, like we talked about reading the Bible and want it to fit our world. Like, no, this is what he means, and I want. God is not your. You can say, yeah, Jesus is my best friend, but it's not horizontal. Like God, you can have a relationship, but He's above you, right? Where a lot of people, like, their faith is, like you said, conditional. And it's like, as long as I can see the good in things, then it's good.
And the world doesn't revolve around you. So that's what people need to understand.
No.
That yes, just because you have a relationship with God, it doesn't mean that He's gonna start being a master puppeteer and start moving things in the way that just suits your life. Like one thing I had to understand too, that taking a loss can be a W for someone else that could be praying to God for something to happen in his life, where God needs that guy to win in that situation. That's why you're experiencing that loss or that depression, or because sometimes you have to know that it's for the greater good of God's purpose. So if me having to take a loss is for God's purpose for someone else, you have to be humble enough to understand that and to be like that like.
Would you say you're a pawn, really? Like, not in a negative way, but like you're God's pawn. Like, he's just using you.
Once you decide to give your life to Christ and to fully trust God, to take the steering wheel, you have to understand that you are a pawn, and you're gonna be taking you're gonna be getting W's and L's in the way that suits His plan, because it's not your plan.
It's God's glory.
So let me give a real life example of this. Okay, so this was I think the 4th month of me running my brand, right? Where I had a bunch of orders to ship out, and the place where I was shipping at, they only had a certain amount of space left to take the packages, right, to get shipped out. And the person that was working there, they told me, they said, Aaron, that we won't be able to take. I think I had maybe like 500 packages there, and he's like, maybe like we're only going to be able to take half of that because our thing is full. And I said, what do you mean it's full? Like, I'm here on time. Like, that's the first time I've seen this problem. Like, take them all, you know what I mean? And they were just like, yeah, like, we don't have space to fit it in the truck. And I said, well, can't you move someone else's out there? And then they were like, well, what if we did that to yours? Like, how would you feel towards that, right? But then guess what? One of the workers told me, because the worker told me that, there's some other packages from another person who has a lot in here. Let me call him and see if he'll take some of his out and let you put yours in, right? So the worker called that person, right? Got him on the phone, and they told him that, yeah, like, mine can go the next day. Let him put his in, because he had like 1,000 packages. So he had double what I was doing, and he was willing to sacrifice some of his for me. So that showed me there on the spot that, someone taking an L for me, because that was probably maybe he is a Christian, maybe he believes in God, and he was working for the greater good of his purpose. Yeah. So his L benefited me. I got the W there, and like that circumstance could be translated to me helping out the next person. Like, if that happened again, it didn't happen again, but if that happened, I wouldn't feel bad if, like, my packages get taken out. You can go in too. Yep. But you see how like you have to be able to be open-minded to not thinking the world revolves around you.
See the bigger picture.
The bigger picture.
And even in retrospect, I bet you he didn't think it was an L. I bet you he thought it was a big W, right? Because
for sure,
in that retrospect, you're humble in life. You learned a lot. When everything's for God's glory, you going through struggles, you going through trauma, tragedy is all for God's glory.
And you see, I thought I was the big fish in that situation. I thought, because I was telling him, like, I have 500 packages here. Like, you know how many packages I ship with you guys? I should be getting priority.
Yeah,
there was someone in there with 1,000 packages looking at me like who the fuck are you, And he still let me take his spot, like, to fill the truck. So, that taught me a really big lesson there, where, I still think like that today, because I know that when I take a L, or, when something doesn't go my way, I know that, it's there's a bigger purpose behind it. And you have to be, that only comes from trusting God. If you have no God there, that's when you start thinking, fuck this guy. Like, yo, I got to get mine. Like, you get antsy. You start feeling that the world is against you.
Yeah.
When, like, now it's like, yo, I just chill.
Like you even said too, wake up, people need to wake up. to see what's really going on. The lowest is the highest. Jesus says the lowest will be the highest. When all our time comes, you can't show your bank account, you can't show your successes. Everyone's the same. Everybody is the same here, right? The culture is all about numbers and variables and things. You have a house, you have this, you're better looking, you have nicer clothes. Man, the lowest, the highest. There's no, like, the competition is heaven and hell. Like that's the competition. Like we're living in life because, yeah, I want to get to heaven, you want to get to heaven. You have to see the bigger picture. Like the minutia and the things we get angry about, like you said, like wow, like, God had to work in that situation, to see like, fuck, I was thinking this certain way about myself, and good thing that thing happened. Or because experiences in life doesn't have to be like, I only read the Bible, I go to church. Like God isn't everything. Like experiences in life is God happening over and over and over again.
And
but you had the faith to see it.
Yes.
So imagine you had no faith. Imagine you had no.
I told you I would have snapped. I would have just been like, yo, your shit's coming out.
Yeah,
or
I know.
Someone's shit's coming out because my shit's getting shipped today.
Yeah.
But how many situations do we all know of, jobs that were presented to us that we didn't get, but we found something that was better, and it was something that is more beneficial for our situation? Or how many times have we heard of an athlete who didn't get signed by this team, but went to a different situation that at that time he was thinking, like Kawhi. Like when Kawhi came to Toronto, he was pissed. He didn't want to come to the Raptors, but look what happened. He came and he won a ring. So sometimes we don't see the immediate the workings of God, and we don't see the benefits of the impact of what He's actually trying to do with our lives. We're so focused on damn, I didn't want that, but we don't see the bigger picture because we're not God. We don't have that vision. So there's so many situations where we're quick to jump the gun and try to blame God, or try to say, this wasn't meant for me. This job, I really needed that job. Well, you look down the road, you actually got a better job or a better opportunity. And there's God behind that,
God's
whether you
plan,
believe in Him or not, right?
God's plan never fails. God's plan never fails. Our plans do 24/7. Our ideas, our wants, our desires. God will give you what you need at the time because He needs to teach you a lesson. He's like, you're lacking in this area. You're lacking in empathy. You're lacking in awareness. You're lacking in something. So He puts you through certain things because He has to bring you closer to Him. Like I always say, when you're away from God, you don't have a relationship. Anyone listening, you don't have a faith. Like He will do things for His glory to get you closer to Him, so that when, like you said, things go wrong, things go awry, tragedies happen, instead of like responding and getting like, you sit back and humble yourself, like, okay, let me pray. Like, what does God want me to learn here? You know what I mean? Because like we said, when you don't have everything, like it could all be taken away. And I know for myself, I've had to be patient in my life and not just go to a job, take this, do that. I had to learn to be like, you know what? I trust in God. I believe in God. I have faith in God. I take so much, like, I'm so grateful and blessed. This podcast means a lot to me. Like I've always had ideas and wanted to speak my truth and have conversations and help people, you know what I mean? Really talk about like, I'm a flawed guy. Like I'm pretty fucked up. I've gone through dark shit. I know there's a person out there who was like me at a younger age, who had no one to go to, who didn't, was born in severe
Doesn't
poverty.
even need to be younger too. There could be older than you, right?
But I just remember myself, you know what I mean? I remember myself lost as a younger guy, So I know there's just people in different situations where, I could have never forced this. I could have never manifested this without God. I could have never been like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm going to find another person, or I'm going to force something to happen. You have to really let God work, right? And it means it's not on your clock and your time clock. Like, you'll have to do jobs that aren't your gifts, aren't your blessings. You have to deal with people that maybe you don't get along with. You have to humble yourself 24/7. God always tells me, who do you think you are? Who do you work for? You don't work for you and your ego. You don't work for what you think you deserve and who you think you want to be. You work for me. There's a person over there that needs help. Go help that person. Simple.
Serving. And until you actually know what it's like to serve other people and put other people first, you can never feel personal fulfillment. Because what good is you reaping all the benefits when you never known what it's like to pay it forward and to see someone else's life get that change or making a difference, right? That's why, like they say that there's no feeling like seeing someone else experience what you experienced from giving and from helping, right? We know that's why this podcast is, it's there's so much value here because it's not self-serving. What we're talking about here doesn't serve us. Like it it's all about r- giving people that perspective shift to elevate their own lives,
Exactly.
to make change, to bring them something that's eternal and not just temporary, right? There's nothing that the world can provide you that is eternal. Nothing.
And I thought about that, right? Sometimes when I listen to a certain podcast, listen over it, and I shouldn't have said that. I'm speaking this way. It's like, man, if we're talking about Jesus Christ as a victory, if we're getting someone to go research it that I've never met in my life, never will even talk to, who knows what that person will do in life? Like, who knows what country he lives in?
Especially
he's
in
trying
this
to do.
climate too, though. Like right now, like it's now with another
With
shutdown.
Covidicus.
Yeah, we're in a time where like a lot of people they don't know what to believe anymore. Whether it's government, COVID, their employers, like it's such a fucked up world right now. I'm not sorry for swearing because that's what it
Yeah.
is. Like it's a shit show. Like the
Yeah.
world's never been at like this, right? So it's I just try to tell people that if there's one thing that you can believe in something that's bigger than yourself, right? And it's not government. It's not COVID. It's not a doctor.
It's not LeBron
It's-
James.
Like
Sorry, it's not even the BLM movement.
no, it's not. It's
Nothing
it's
political.
nothing. It's nothing
Not political.
cultural.
Nothing cultural, man.
Like
It's anti-culture. It's wake up culture.
wake up
Look
at some point.
see what's going on. Like I want to take us into the point of like your routine building. When we talk about, God helps you find your balance. So, you build your life with God. We've talked about that a lot during this episode. Your routine in your life has to have God at the center, and he helps you find, like for me, my routine, it took years to find like exactly like how I want to spend my energy. Like I first was too much into one thing. I was like, I'm dedicated to this. I'm gonna do this all the time. And then I was dedicated too much. It was either fitness and it was too much of hockey. And it was too much of my Instagram, too much of my fitness business, right? Then it was too much of girls and partying and like trying to get laid. So I had to realize, I had to let God take over my routine. I had to let him break me, change me, and like, hey, this is what actually you'll have peace in.
So you're talking about putting God first. Is that what you're talking about?
Putting God first. But
So what does that mean? Because some people they might not know what it means to put God first.
Put God first is not just a slogan. We talked about it in the last episode. It's not a slogan. It's to put God first is to know who he is and why he created you. You have to know, for me, Jesus Christ is God. When I say God, it's not what everyone else thinks is God. It's Jesus Christ. I'm not here to debate it. It's Jesus Christ. So for me to know, if I'm going to put God first, I have to know who God is, how he wants me to live his life, and how he wants me to go on and serve other people in my gift to bring them closer to God. That's what brings me the most joy and peace in my life. Like when I get to go talk to somebody one-on-one for a coffee about Jesus and they're looking, that brings me the most joy in the world. Like someone who's like, we talked about searching, like I used to be searching when I was confused. I wanted to know because I knew there was God, a God. I knew I had conversations with God, and when trauma happened, I go, why God? But I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was actually specific. I didn't know and fully believe he was Jesus and he actually lived on earth. I still was like, I don't know, man. You know what? Like, it could have been like a good story. Like, it was the best story ever written, but he didn't actually die on a cross. Like, this is not actually real. It's a good story, and I watched a Christmas movie, and he's a good guy. But until I wanted to know, like, putting God first is to really dying to me, like dying to myself, dying to what my family's generations were like, dying to what they think like, and wanting to really, like we say, go out in the wilderness, like be on your own, sacrifice, and like be with God. Like that's what putting God first is. It's not just like a quick saying. Putting God first is like you start your day and you just pray to God. It's like you have to really get to know who he is.
Yeah. So I talked about him before. One of my OGs, his name is Shadow, and he told me, he says, family first, God before that. So when he told me that, the way I translated that is, yes, your family and the people you love are going to be around you and they're going to be supporting you. However, they can't offer you what God can offer you, you know? Because we're humans at the end of the day. We don't have the same capabilities as God does, you know? God has the power to change lives where, you know, we as humans, we can't take it to that level. So putting God first, what it means is him influencing every decision you're making on a daily basis, right? You can't say, God, I'm putting God first, or God first, when your daily decisions are not
Aaron first,
Yeah,
Alex first, my business first.
Exactly. It's not God ordained, and it's not what we know how God wants us to live. So you can't pick and choose when you want to say I put God first or God first. You know, it starts from the small decisions to the biggest decisions. It starts from giving him control of situations that you really want to, you know, to step in and be like, no, I think I got this. I should handle it in a certain way. When you know at the end of the day, so many people are gonna be, you know, they're gonna be doing things where you might not you might not like what they're doing, or you might not see their intentions, but you who trust in God just tells you that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I'm not gonna have to try to convince anybody. I don't want to have to try to manipulate anyone. If this situation's meant for me, right, then God's gonna give it to me. So I don't have to. I can just fall back. I don't have to be, you know, always forcing things, or, you know, trying to pull strings here and there.
Manipulate the situation to fit.
Like that, and that was my biggest thing, because I was a control freak, and I always, like,
I've seen sometimes.
Even
where
now,
like,
I'm still working on it. Like not like I'm a saint or anything, but, you know, I used to be way worse than how I am now, where I'd have to be, you know, in total control of everything, and if I didn't, I'd just be like, okay, then, you know, I'll take myself
See you
out of it.
later.
Yeah, see you later, right?
Yeah.
So like now it's like, now because I'm more present with people, and I'm more, you know, coming from a place of humility, where, you know, I listen a lot more to people now about like what they're feeling, or, you know, what their opinions are towards situations that I'm a part of. And you know, that takes time, and that takes God to work through you to be like, you know, Aaron, like it's not your call. It's not your decision to decide. This is God's decision, because there's other people's lives that are equal to yours, right? And you know, like, especially now with social media, we like to, like, a lot of people come from a place of their followers validate them, or their status in the world gives them a certain way that, you know, I can talk to someone a certain way, because, you know, like, this is, like, look at my followers, or look who I am on social media, you know. And it's so stupid, because who cares at the end of the day about that? Like, that's all a facade. But not now. That's how it is.
Well, you said Instagram gets taken away. You're no longer a model.
Yeah.
Right? You're no longer important.
We
right?
think that validates us.
But you made a good point. You just showed a fact that you can change. Like, you're even talking about how you want to change, right? We talked about how people like to point out other people's things and what they need to work on, but a lot of people aren't good at going to people and saying, "I'm working on this on myself. I do this and it's wrong." People do not have a hard time
even saying sorry.
Saying sorry. It's almost like people want to believe that they're good. We talked about good and bad. Like, you and I are here. We're talking about the things that we know are bad, we know are wrong. We no longer go like, no, like, it had to be that thing. Like, I'm hustling. I work my ass off. It's definitely this guy's problem. Like, you were literally saying, I can admit my faults. I don't carry the shame about it, and I know God's got me. Like, I know God wants me to humble myself. He's riding it. He's God first. I'm okay now saying I fucked up. I'm okay saying I had a sex addiction. I'm okay saying I gambled thousands of dollars, right? I can say, like, these are my messed up faults. Let's get other people to then, you know what? Let's do that as well. because we're getting, like we said, we're in the world now. It's just pointing fingers and everyone's fucked up. Everyone get into your victim groups and hate other people, right? Where it's like, yo, like at the end of the day, the common denominator in your life is yourself and your relationship with God. It can, and everyone, like I said, you can. God's always there. He doesn't like, oh, I'm gonna force myself on you. You have to obey me. He's gonna leave you alone. But when your life is going to shits, it's because your relationship with God is going to shits. And I want to touch on a point.
Or there is no relationship.
Yeah, there's
How about that?
Yeah, there's still, you're out to lunch, but we've talked about that a ton. I want to go to a quote that you told me. I think it's important when on the point you were talking about. It goes, responding to what's urgent and sacrificing what's important. And we were talking about how in the beginning of your day, you're putting yourself first and not God. And a lot of us, we respond to what we think is urgent,
And you know why that's the case too? Because now that when you have a smartphone, right, you are at everyone else's disposal. So you could be doing something that, like, let's say you're reading the Bible, right? And I message you. I was like, "Hey, Alex, I need your help to do something. Like, can you meet me here, right?" Because I know you're my good friend, right? You're my brother in Christ. You're gonna come. You're gonna come there, and you're gonna help me with what I need.
I'll be
Vice
there.
versa, right?
Yep.
And that, just knowing that, right, can be used negatively too, because now when you have your phone, right, because our attention spans aren't the greatest because of the phone and the social addictions, all that bullshit, where we can sacrifice what's important for the things that are urgent, right? Or we think that it's meaningful, or we need to be doing something. Someone just posted something on Instagram, we got to go see it, right? Like there's something on the news where we have to go watch it, and we're constantly sacrificing, what's actually important, and what is the main, what's the point of it? So we talked a lot about these examples of, finding the meaning, and asking, only you can tell yourself what's the important things in life, right?
Well, and we know when we sacrifice what's urgent. Like, we go to TV, Netflix, drugs, parties, girls, our business, our money, and we don't know how our brother's doing. We don't know how our mom's doing. We don't see our grandparents anymore. Obviously, there's context in every situation. I'm just giving generic examples, but there's certain things that we know we actually do care about, and we just we harden our hearts. We get cold in the world, and we just focus on narcissistic. Like, it's me. The world is me. This person should be texting me back. This person should be replying to me. You and I relationship, how often do we actually talk when we're not with each other? Rarely ever.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
If it is, it's like, it's meaningful, right?
Yeah, it's here and there. Yeah. It's, did you see this? Or like, we ask a question here and there, but we're not like trying to take each other's time and drain each other. Like, you and I both know we have things we're always working on separate from each other. Like, maybe I'll send you a Bible quote or a question or thing like that, but we're not like in the minutia of the world. I'm, for myself, I'm old school. Like, how much better is it when you and I meet for like food and actually talk in person? Like, we never like are growing a relationship with texting, right?
And that's something that, because we're not addicted to the phones, where other people, when they meet up, it's almost like it's phone first, conversation second.
Yeah.
It's reality of today. It's a sad reality. And like, going back to the main point of sacrificing what's important for what's urgent, that can hinder not only your relationship with people and with God, it can also hinder the very thing you're working on. So let's say you're actually working to either break an addiction, or you're working towards, building your business in a certain way. If all these things of urgency from other people are getting in the way of you focusing in on what you're trying to actually do, that's detrimental. When people feel that you're at their command, if you're at their disposal, because, if I hit up this person, he's gonna come chill with me tonight, or if I hit up this person, he's basically gonna do what I want him to do, right?
This guy owes me. He owes me something.
You can't be at someone's disposal. You know, and a lot of people are like that. Like, it's a sad reality that, you know, that their friends treat them in that way of, you know, my boredom, this person has to satisfy my boredom.
Yeah.
Right?
He's
This person has,
show.
yeah, when I want to chill, you better be there to chill. And if you're not, then I'm gonna make you feel like a piece of shit for it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you can never be working on your own thing, or you can never just be at peace by yourself, because you're always being pulled by all these people. You're basically their bitch. I'm sorry to
Yes.
say it. You know, it's culture to Christ, but you know, I have to say it sometimes. Where
Yeah.
you know, like,
Get
that's how they're
real.
treating you. Yeah, it's like, you know, we know how many people like that, and I'm sorry to say to you that if this offends you, you're that person.
Start thinking about
right?
it.
Start like, you know, start being able to say no. That's what we talked about in past episodes. The ability to say no. Nowadays, people are scared to say no because they're scared to offend people. They're scared to lose friends. They're scared to, you know, piss people off. But at the end of the day, if you can't say no, you're always gonna be
A
you
yes
know,
man. You're saying yes to
You're gonna be
everything.
a puppet. You're
Yep.
gonna be get pulled in every direction.
Yep.
Where you can't
Sure,
even
I'm gonna take the
focus on what's
vaccine.
important.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and yes, like, prayer can help you, but at the end of the day, you need to have that feeling inside of you where it's like, I stand on my own 2 feet first. You know, I'll tell you a story. When I was at the Golden State Warriors Spurs game, when we went with Drake to the game, so Jay-Z was at the game as well, right? And I asked Drake on the plane, I was like, yo, did you say what up to Jay? And he goes, nah. He's like, yo, why do I always have to be the person that's going up to him? Why can't he come up to me? He's like, you got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And when he said that, I was like, that's Drake saying that, of like, why do I have to go, you know, say what up to him? He sees me, he can come say what up to me. And that just goes to show you that, you know, no matter how big, no matter how small you are, you got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet first. You can't always be, you know, the bitch in the situation, right? The one who's always running up to people or having to impress and satisfy other people's needs.
Yep. And it takes confidence to do that. And you and I talked about how it's going to take that confidence. People lack confidence. You and I don't lack confidence because we do the work. We practice the discipline. You can't, people say, have self-confidence. You don't just have confidence. Faith without works is dead. God wants you to work and serve. Once you begin doing that, you then have the confidence to realize, yo, I can stand on my own 2 feet. I worked, you know, I sacrificed. I had to lose friends. People didn't like me. I got called names. I lost different things, but like, I trusted God. I trusted God, believed in him. I worked, and that built my confidence to stand on 2 feet, regardless of who I meet. You know, it doesn't matter to me who I ever meet. I don't fan people. I just like them. Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Alex. Like, well, let's have a conversation.
That's how it should be too.
That's how it is. It doesn't matter to me if they're this, they're that. Maybe even if it's like a 15-year-old kid or it's someone who thinks because of my following they can't talk to me. Like, I talk to everyone like they're the same. We're the same under God, but you have to build the confidence with effort. You can't just sit around all day and get, like you said, be a yes man to people at your job and just go around and expect yourself to be able to do things. You can't just have confidence. You have to work with God. You have to do the work. Put your hands into something.
And that real confidence comes with spiritual clarity.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Well, you can't be confused.
Well, there's a lot of confident people out there, but it's fake confidence. Their confidence comes from a place of arrogance,
Yes.
right? It comes from a place of cockiness.
They have to prove themselves.
A real confident person doesn't need to hide behind followers, doesn't need to hide behind what they're wearing, the gear they're wearing, who they know, who they're surrounded with, right? A real confident person can stand on their own 2 feet because they know at the end of the day, I'm myself and I have nothing to prove to you. I don't expect you to do anything for me. And that's real confidence. Like, I've seen so many people where, you know, like, they're so confident even on social media because, you know, like, they have a lot of followers or, you know, they know so-and-so. But at the end of the day, when you see them in person, like I talked to you about that the YouTuber before,
Oh, it's the
right?
biggest
Who's like
test.
one of the biggest, and you talk to this person in real life, and you know it's a joke. Like, you don't even know why you're around this person. So, you know, real confidence comes from a genuine place. Doesn't come from outside sources or, you know, social media profiles. You can't hide behind that.
No.
Because people see through it.
Yep. You need to be honest in your work. So questions we want to ask you guys is how can you put God first? How in your day can you start building real confidence, right? Aaron talked about fake confidence, hiding behind clout. You know, how can you truly be confident in yourself? You know, in the works you do, because the works you do first you want to have meaning. You want to be serving people. You got to be consistent with it. One thing I learned in terms of confidence is eye contact, right? I think language is important. So if you ladies and gentlemen are listening, just know the words you speak are important. So if you say, man, I'm just always nervous, I'm always shy, you need to start checking yourself on those words. Start saying, I'm going to be confident today. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be able to, look my boss in the eye and say no to something, or be able to, express myself to somebody who, is important in my life that I'm upset about. A thing I learned about is complaining. So in terms of life, when when you're like, man, this guy's doing this, or man, like this is like, oh, I just feel this way. It's okay to express yourself, express your emotions, but it's never start to point the finger at they need to fix the feelings you're going through, right? So if you're going through strife, you're going through problems at your job, it's okay to complain, but then you need to ask yourself, how can I fix a situation? How can I fix the way I respond to something? How can I, if my business is failing, or I'm lacking in different areas, or I'm going back into my addictions, it's okay to let out the complaint, I'm doing this, God dang it, it's like, I keep going back, I can't get away from women, whatever. Ask yourself, okay, put it out there to the world, God, I'm feeling this way, but don't go do never go to the external to point blame. Always go, you know what, yeah, I'm complaining, but how can I get better?
Accountability. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, be the accountable person in your life.
Yeah, don't blame your surroundings, or don't try to blame God for certain things that you're going through. Pray to Him and try to build from it. Yep. Right? It's now this generation today likes to point fingers at people and likes to cancel people based on, on social pressure and social perception. When in reality, look at the people who are pointing fingers. Look at the people who are deciding to cancel these people. Let's look at their lives, That's the thing that pisses me off about cancel culture, because the people that are doing the canceling, they don't like to reveal their skeletons in their closet, And that's the thing about being a Christian and knowing that God sees it all, right? No sin is weighed more than another sin.
No, and God sees your heart, right? That's why, we swear a bit here and there, but God knows our hearts, and God knows, we're working on, the Holy Spirit guides us. We know when we mess up, right? But I always want to say, I like every comment, every DM. I'm going to respond to it. If I think it's important to bring on the podcast, I will. I think it's important to know that, yeah, you're right. You should always look at, if you have a hard time with judgment and people coming after you, always ask yourself, who is the person, judging me? I always say, are they in your arena? Are they at your level? Are they ghost followers on Instagram? But thank you guys for listening to this episode. We appreciate it. We hope we were able to give you some tips. If you do like this video, you like to watch it on YouTube, make sure you like it, leave a comment, and as well, comment a question you have for our Q&A episode on Apple Podcasts. We're going to do a Q&A episode, so ask all the questions you want on Apple Podcasts, and we're going to also shout out those people who do. We appreciate it. We want to know this. We said it's a community. We acknowledge you guys. We're going to be open and transparent in our lives. Stay tuned also for next episode. We're going to get into more testimonies, more stories, so you guys can get to know us better.
The verse of the day is Romans 12, verse 12. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be consistent in prayer. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you, Alex?
Being patient and calm in the eye of the storm. Being in the boat with Jesus, and the disciples are worried, and they're literally living with the living God. And I want to be sleeping with Jesus in the storm. Shit's hitting the fan. There's tornadoes everywhere. There's destruction. There's floods. And I'll be on my knees praying, going, I can't wait to see you, Jesus.
Because you're consistent in prayer, good or bad, right?
Amen, yeah.
And you're rejoicing in hope. You're not looking at the past failures, at past struggles. You're present now, and you're hopeful for the future because you trust God with your life.
Amen.
There's no amount of money that can give you that peace of mind and the freedom. There's no amount of followers you can get that can give you that. I'm
already dead in culture. I gave my life to Christ. It doesn't.
Those are three things that we want all listeners to, and ourselves included, just be mindful of that this week. So once you listen to this on Wednesday, right, take this into the weekend with you. Rejoice in hope, because we know a lot, especially during this time. There's not a lot to be hopeful about. You know, you turn on the news, it's a shit show. You might not even be able to go to your workplace now because it's shut down, right? Or maybe you're working at home in an environment that you're like, I wish I could just go to work so I don't have to be cooped up, you know, cabin fever. But you got to rejoice in the hope. You got to be patient in tribulation, patient in the struggle. You know, we all go through the deep waters together. And then you be consistent in the prayer.
Always consistent.
And let God work.
Amen.
Peace.
Welcome back, listeners.
Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I forgot that verse of that day. Oh, yo, put this in there. You know, show our comedic side. You have a verse? Yo, fam, Jesus said, yo, stay too blessed, yo. In your life, he's going to give you riches, fam. He's going to give you the frickin' Rari, dog. Hey, if that's funny enough, put it in there, eh? Yo, I'm going to read Matthew 23:31, dog. Yo, 7 woes to the scribes and Pharisees.